Okay, so let's discuss Ajax functions today. So in Ajax functions, first one is action function, and including that action function, we will discuss that action status as well. Okay, action function and action status. So here the example what we have written is, so once you test this, okay, you can, here I just have the search account only. Whatever the keyword I'm giving, that accounts should be displayed here. This is what my requirement here. So we have already done the searching of accounts, right? So the same one what I'm doing is I just created the same Visual Force page and one click button. Okay, here, so what we have written is, first one, the controller we have written like this. To store the all values, we have given this accounts, list of accounts here, one variable. Then we have search string. Okay, later to show or hide the this window, we have the one boolean variable called as show. Okay, and then on initial step on the constructor itself, we are just making it default values. Okay. Then when we click on that click button, then it queries the records. Okay, it displays show equals to true. Okay, now here what will happen is, this is called as JavaScript function. Okay, this is JavaScript function. Inside the JavaScript function, we are calling the Ajax function called as action function. So how to declare the action function? So action function can be declared on any output label or any button or something, whatever it is, you can declare that. Okay, now here what we are trying to do is, on click of this panel, we are calling one JavaScript function. Okay, here value is there. Okay, now here when we click on this will take this search string value where it is the input text. Okay, that value will be used as the parameter, and then when you click on this, if you see this, we know that on each and every HTML component or HTML tag we can use JavaScript functions. Okay, same way here, on click call JavaScript. This is one JavaScript function. Okay, once we click on, so once you click on this output label, then this JavaScript function will call. Okay, this will be executed. Inside that we have declared action function here. See this, Apex action function. So when we call this, name as search. Okay, read-ended searching means here we are using the okay, searching this ID, we are just re-rendering all the IDs directly. Okay, status. So when you are using action status as well, what is the action status? Action status is nothing but whenever you are loading something, or let's say, so when you search for something, right, it shows that loading or something, the status will be displayed. That's called as action status. So the action status will be used with the action function as well. Okay, here, so whenever we are searching for something, I mean, we can call from JavaScript function to Apex controller method. We can call controller method from JavaScript using action function. So usually when you write a method inside the class, then we can call it as a method. If you write it in JavaScript, that is called as a function. Okay, the difference between function and method is, method means without an object you cannot call that, or you should use the class name, static method, right? If you can call without class or without object, then we can call it as function. It will be used in the scripting languages. Those are called as JavaScript or Ajax or jQuery, whatever it is. Those are called, everything is JavaScript. Inside the JavaScript, we can call it as function. So to the function, you can call the value. I mean, we can pass the parameter as value. Here, what we are doing, on output panel, whenever the output panel is clicked, then we are calling one JavaScript function. Inside that, we are passing parameter as search string. Okay, this will be taken to the this function first. When you click on this function will be called. Inside this function, we have called Ajax function called action function. So action function, what we are doing, action equals to get accounts. Whenever this action function is called, it should call the controller method called as get accounts, and this can be called by the name search. That's why we are giving the search name. Whatever the Ajax function name or action function name you have given, using that name only you can call that from the JavaScript. Okay, so the name is given, and re-render. Re-render means what has to be refreshed again. So this will be refreshed completely. The entire form page block will be refreshed instead of the page. Okay, once this is re-rendered, status. So what type of status we need to display? So this is, we are having id equals to status. Okay, means whenever you click on this button and page is getting refreshed, then loading button will be displayed. I mean loading text will be displayed. Once it is done, it just displayed nothing. If you want, you can just say that loaded. Okay, now here you can use now. See, I'm giving test. Okay, click on this. See, loading is came, right? So this is how this action function will be used. So when we will use the action function, so whenever you want to display, I mean whenever you want to call Ajax function using the JavaScript, and the call should be go to the controller method, then you can call the action function. Mainly action function is used to call the controller method from JavaScript. Okay, we can directly use the some other methods like directly button or something else, you can call that. But here the advantage is, let's say if value is something, if value is null, okay, what we can do is we can validate the data. Alert, please enter search string. Return. Now here you can validate as well. Instead of going into the Visualforce page and verifying there and getting back and showing the error message, so instead of that you can directly call here. Let's say that I'm not giving anything. See this. Please enter search string. Okay, Ajax action function will be used to call the controller method from JavaScript function. Okay, and to display the status as well. If you want, you can display the status. Status is not mandatory, but if you want to display, you can use it or you can ignore it. Okay, so mainly that will be, so the main advantage of that action function is you can validate the data inside the JavaScript function. Okay, and if you use some text, it will be Now if you see this, click on this, please enter such string. If you give some different value, it will be loaded. Okay, this is how we use the action function in the Salesforce. Okay, so if you want to render some details dynamically, then we can use like this. Okay, here we use this some lightning component. Okay, sorry, this is Visual Force component. Sorry. So okay, so better to discuss this as well. There is one thing called Visual Force component. When you click on this, right, you can see that Visual Force component as well. So component means you can reuse this component anywhere in your Visual Force. Means once you write, so let's say that you have written just one method in Apex class, then you can use any number of times from anywhere, right? Same way, this is also like one method. This is called as Apex component. Okay, this Apex component means you can pass anything here. Okay, any attributes. First you can use attributes, what type of attribute it is and everything. So however you passing some values, right? If you use the page block table or data table, you have to pass some value string, I mean list of records, and then we have to declare variable, right? So that is also one Visual Force component only, which is developed by the Salesforce itself. Okay, here these are called as user defined components. This is defined by ourselves. We can define our component. Once you create that, you can give the attribute name. Okay, then you can give any number of attributes you can declare here. Okay, what here we have written is we have just given two attributes. One is name, which is string data type, and when is another one is attribute name is accounts. This is list of accounts. Okay, so as well as inside the page block table, we are just using this page block, we are just displaying this one. However, we have iterated that, right? So we use the page block table to display this one. The same way we have used inside the component. Now this component you can use anywhere in our code. If you want to use any number of times, you can use this one. But if you don't have component, you have to write your own code each and every time wherever you want to execute this or wherever you want to iterate the accounts or something else. But here, if you want, you can use this component and you don't need to write this entire code again and again. Okay, this is the use of Apex component, I mean Visual Force component. Visual Force component is just reusable component where you can use your code many number of times in your Visual Force pages, number of pages. Okay, now this is actual execution, means let's say that the calling is here. So what I want to do is I wanted to check page block table. Here I just need to iterate the accounts and I need to display the name. This is, we know that. Okay, so if we want to iterate like this, we need the accounts and we need the title as well. We are giving this, so then we are iterating that, right? As well as what we are doing is we have created one component to get the any value. Okay, if you want to pass list of accounts, right, you should have the list of accounts to iterate them. For that we have created one attribute to get the accounts. We have one attribute, and for testing purpose we have taken name as well. Okay, so here given name is something we have given, then later so we just given this Apex attributes. Now here I just remove this is not required. Now when you test this, okay, refresh. display like this. So now if I say that I want to display it 2 times, then I have to write this code 2 times here, right? If I want to display, but here you can just call this component once again. If you call once again, then the same code will be executed twice, because we are asking it to load once again. Okay, so we are not writing the code again and again. If you want to display a number of times, you can use this. But what we need is, whenever you are using this component, you should pass the accounts. List of accounts you need to pass, then only it will work. Okay, that's why the component here we have said that required equals to true. Required equals to true means without, say, let's say that if you use the page block table or something else, if you don't pass the value for value, then it won't allow that, right? So that's called required. And there will be lot of other things as well in this one, align, border, and remaining the columns, everything will be there, but these are not mandatory, means that's not required. Okay, the component you created, if you want to call that, you have to use the namespace called C colon my comp. Here it will be. So here whatever the things are required, so that you have to pass that. Okay, name. Okay, then we have accounts, right? Just come out. Name is, you can give it or it's not required. Test I'm giving. Then accounts, it is required. Just simply list of accounts, we need to pass this. Using this list of accounts, however you are iterating in your Visual Force code, the same we have written here. That's it. To get those records into your list, we used another set of attribute, another attribute. That's it. That's it. Ante. So you have to give the same name, accounts and accounts. If you say, let's say that if you are giving something different other than that, it will throw error. See that unsupported attribute accounts 1 So whatever the attribute you have given there, the same attribute name you have you should give that. ఎలా ఫిట్ అవుద్ది ఫిల్టర్ ఇక్కడ నువ్వు ఇక్కడ సెర్చ్ చేస్తున్నావు కదా, సెర్చ్ స్ట్రింగ్ ఇచ్చి ఇక్కడ సెర్చ్ చేస్తున్నావు కదా. క్వైరీ ఎగ్జిక్యూషన్ నీకు అపెక్స్ క్లాస్ కామన్ కదప్ప, ఇక్కడ ఉందిగా నీకు అపెక్స్ మెథడ్ యాజ్ ఇట్ ఈస్, ఇంతకుముందు ఏది చేసామో అదే ఉంది ఇక్కడ, వేరే ఏం లేదు కదా. సో యూ జస్ట్ నీడ్ టు ఎగ్జిక్యూట్ దట్స్ ఇట్. ఓకే, సో ద కాంపోనెంట్ ఈజ్ నథింగ్ బట్ రీయూజబుల్ కోడ్. Okay, so component is nothing but reusable code. You can use number of times then. So let's say that here I am using name only, right? If you want to use something else, you can add any number of fields here. You can also use account name and type everything here if you want to display that. Means whenever you are using this component, account name, account type will be displayed. Okay, so this is how the component will work. Okay, next thing, this is action function. I have another thing called action polar. So action polar is nothing but, if you see some pages or some stock exchange or something else, okay, it will be get refreshing, keep on refreshing, and it will be showing the latest data. Okay, so if you have seen some bus stop or in bus stands or somewhere in say in airports or something, so there will be a screen which will be keep on displaying the flight details and other details, everything. So that will be fetched from the database itself, right? That will be displayed on the screen. That will be get refreshed for every 5 seconds or 10 seconds or 2 seconds, like that, right? That thing can be used action polar. Action polar is to refresh a page or to refresh a particular page in time intervals. Okay, here action polar is there. In this action polar we are just using time refresh. Okay, we are just using time refresh. In this time interval we are using 5 seconds. Okay, just re-rendering the time display. We are not doing anything, we are just displaying the time, that's it. Okay, if you see this, what happens is when you use action polar, action equals to refresh, means this is the method from this one. Refresh is the method. What I'm trying to display is I'm just displaying my date. Date is nothing but here system.now, what is the current date and time that I need to display that. This I'm just displaying in the Visual Force page. Time is my date. That's it. So what will happen is for every 5 seconds on the time interval, it just call the refresh method and refresh in this time display block. It means for every 5 seconds it displays the latest time. 23. Let's wait for something. 29. 34. Okay, this will keep on refreshing. Okay, this is how the action polar will be used. So whenever you have some requirement where the page should be keep on displaying the assigned leads or something else, then you can use this action polar. Okay, requirement is like this. I just need to display the instead of time here my assigned leads. You have to create one Visual Force tab. Okay, when I click on the tab, I need to display the list of leads assigned to my name. Okay, and it should be keep on refreshing. Okay, so here it should provide some link. When I click on that link, it should go to the another window or another tab where it opens the lead information. Okay, why? Because if I want to work on that lead, then I should have the link to go there, right? So that's the requirement. Okay, so this action support is nothing but whenever you want to perform some Apex method calling, when you have done some JavaScript events like as mouse click, mouse double click, or mouse on hover, mouse out, or lot of other functions or JavaScript functions are there. So whenever you want to perform the Apex controller method calling, whenever you are using some event, then that's called as action support. So here you have to say that event equals to same as it is action support, action name we have to give, then event we have to give, then count display. Okay, now here when you see this, okay, whenever you just open the mouse count, keep on counting. See this. If you mouse hover on that, then it will automatically keep on count increment. If you remove that, then it will be there. Okay, so can you tell any example where we can use like this? Not rolling exactly, but we can say that. So you might have seen that the number of visitors or something else, right? Or number of times you accessed this page or something, right? That we can use this action support. Action support is nothing but whenever you have done some on click or on mouse over or double click something, if you want to call the controller method, then you can use this action support. It's directly saying that action support. Whenever an action is performed, then we need to call the controller method. Okay, this is an example for this. So let's think through that example. So we have static resource. Static resource means you can use the visual images or some Excel files or something is in this static resource. You can store here. Okay, the static resource can be used inside the visual source page as in inside the Apex as. Okay, so if you want to use some Excel or CSV file or something, then you can use this. Let's say this. If you want to use this, then you can use this static resource. Which source. So here you can use static resource dot resource name. Not sure what it is. Static resource. You have to be dollar symbol. Resource dot resource name. So here I have written the resource, right? That's why it is like is the image. Okay. If you want, what we can do is we can use the height and width as well. Height 100, 30 equals to in space like this. Okay, this is how we have to use static resource. How to use SOQL and SOSL. SOQL. Okay, so we have separate PDF for this, I think. We have already done a lot of things, right? So we discussed this. Introduction to SOQL and SOSL. We have already discussed this. SOQL means Salesforce Object Query Language, Salesforce Object Searching Language. Okay, whenever we are using the SOQL, you see we can retrieve your data from single object. Okay, but from multiple fields. Okay, but here you can sort the results. Okay, you can use the filters, everything, but inside this SOSL you can retrieve data from multiple object. SOQL returns list of records, SOSL returns list of records. Okay, list of records. This can be retrieved from multiple object. This can be used only for searching, and the records returned from the SOQL you can use inside the triggers for update or delete anything for DML operation, but the records which are returned from the SOSL you cannot use for the DML operation. Okay, those are read only. Okay, so that is very much important on that. And then when we can use SOQL you can use anywhere inside the triggers or Apex classes whenever you want to retrieve the data from the database. Okay, SOSL is used to search for some fields wherever the text is something or for number is something or something else. Okay, so then you can use the SOSL. Okay, so SOQL will be useful. You just need to know that how to use the order statements. If you know that SQL, that would be better. Yeah. Some annotations. Annotations and Apex. Okay, so these are the annotations we have. Okay, feature annotation we have already seen that, right? Then deprecated we don't need. Aura enabled will come in the lightning. Invocable method we have already seen that. Inside the invocable method, if you declare a variable, then that is called as invocable variable. Means if you make it invocable variable, that can be accessed from the process builder. Okay, so then isTest we have already seen that. Okay, then test setup also we have seen that. Test visible. So what is the use of test visible is, if the variable is private, right, then it cannot be accessed outside that class, right? But for the test classes, if you want to make that variable visible, then you can just simply say that @ test visible on the variable. If you have variable like this, if you make it, if it is private, you can make it test visible. That's it. Now even though if it is private, this variable can be accessed by the test classes, so that test code coverage will be covered. Okay, but for others it won't be visible. This is the functionality we can make it. Okay, now so let's say that if you want to check this method or something, right, then how can you write the test class for this? We just need to create one constructor, right? If you call the constructor, then automatically this line will be covered, and then if you call this method, this will be covered. That's it, right? We have already seen that lot of other things. The same way you can do that. And this remote action. So this is one important thing in the Visual Force page. I'll tell you tomorrow. This action region and remote action. Just remind me on tomorrow. And read only. If you make a method read only, right, then the records returned from that method will be read only. You cannot edit those records. So in this case you can use read only. Deprecated is not required. That will be used by Salesforce. And these are all REST resource and HTTP get, delete, patch. This will come in the REST Explorer or the other thing. Okay, if you want to just go through all these annotations, what is the use and what are other things as well. Okay, so this might be asked in the interviews. What are the REST annotations? Okay, so tomorrow we just need to discuss on action region and this remote action annotation. Okay.